Wesley Farm. Did you get all that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. First off, just a couple of announcements. If you have a cell phone, please turn it off. And if you want to be recognized, please raise your hand because I cannot see. Well, that's the only way I can see you and recognize you. First off, for quorum, roll call.
Starting with the commission, starting with Commissioner Tobias.
Here.
Commissioner Galti.
Here.
Commissioner Hong.
Present.
And Chair.
Here.
I believe, apologies, we should also ask Chair Hong if you are alone or if there's somebody else in the room with you.
No, I'm alone at Lake Tahoe.
Where?
Lake Tahoe. I have to go to a wedding, so that's why I'm remotely. Yeah.
We will come join you. Just shifting briefly to staff, if you can briefly just indicate your name and whether you are alone or if there's somebody else in the room with you, starting with Nancy.
Sorry, I'm here alone.
Benita,
I'm here alone.
Jennifer,
Here alone.
E,
Here and alone.
and present inside the conference room is Miles and myself.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to welcome the home our executive director, who is at a little hiatus in Moldova. I'm glad he arrived safe and sound. With for those of you who may not know too much about geography, Moldova is a neighbor to a country that is in conflict, if I'm not mistaken, the last time I checked. So welcome home. He's going to be giving us a little report. So thank you. And again, for those of you who may not know, this is the last day, and I'm sorry to see him go, for our vice chair and former chair, Ray Gralty. We'll be recognizing him at the end of the program. I've known Ray for a long time, but I know he's not going to remain idle after he retires. Which retire does not mean do nothing. I'm sure he has a lot planned with him.
That's correct.
He'd be a big asset to our community. Okay, with that, consideration approval of the minutes for May 17, 2023. Are there any corrections? Any comments from the commission? How about from the public? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 17, 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Tobias, second by Commissioner Gralty. Discussion? Not? Roll call?
Starting with Vice Chair Galti.
Aye.
Commissioner Hong,
Aye.
Commissioner Tobias.
Aye.
Chair.
Aye. Seeing there are no objections, the motion is carried. Next on the agenda is the executive director's report.
Thank you. I will attempt to be brief. If you take a look at attachment 1, you can see the training statistics. We have a relatively noticeable decline in the number of people taking our live training sessions, which is notable, albeit not too concerning. Our intent has always been to get as many people through the self-directed online training as possible. The live training is only required essentially for approximately 300 or so employees. And so we will continue to offer the live trainings, but definitely have seen a decrease in people signing up to take it. On the other hand, we have continued to see the relatively large number of people taking the self-directed training. If you took a look at attachment 2, you can see a attempt, and let's call it a evolving attempt, to show the number of people taking the self-directed training. So we've now broken it out to the number of people taking it in 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. One thing that has not worked quite the way we would have liked is we are reporting the total number of employees for each department or board or commission, and then also showing a percentage, the number of people have taken it. The thing perhaps that we did not consider would be is employees who have taken it twice or 3 times, employees who may have been at the department and then left, and a new employee takes it. So our percentage completion is anything but accurate. So you can see, for example, if you take a look at the public charter school, they have 1,085% completion rate, which obviously is not a useful or relevant statistic. And so all we can say is that this will be a work in progress if we start trying to get the percentage completion more useful over time. On the other hand, I think if you see low statistics, like the Department of Education is currently at 4%, as probably a relatively fair and probably a more pertinent statistic. So we'll continue to show this, but just kind of trying to indicate it's still pretty rough, and we'll try to figure out ways to make it more specific. Shifting to the guidance and assignment statistics, in May, we had 122 attorney a day submissions. We had a total of 51 new assignments, and we closed out 49 assignments. We also had 3 anti-fraud matters coming in May. I do also want to note that the staff did a terrific job, and I'm going to put Benita a bit on a spot on trying to make sure that we got all our financial disclosures and lobbying expenditures submitted. And Benita, would it be possible for you to do a quick, just very short summary of where we're at on that?
Yes, so currently we are processing the new board updates and reviewing the information. We'll have a better assessment of how many new boards to get them onboarded. Most of the new board members will be starting in July 1, so they'll be getting initial notices and explaining the process for them to file. Usually for new board members and new employees, we take a lot of time to, assist them with the process, because ultimately the goal is to get everyone to file. And so we really appreciate the staff and also all our contact people in helping us with the process, because there's a big labor involved in getting people to file reminders and whatnot. We've been able to successfully do a lot of automation through the e-filing system, but there still is a lot of human factor. And so during this season, we spent a lot of time getting as much people as we can get into the process. And so I think we've been very successful, especially for the public filers. So staff and I will continue to kind of coordinate with our point of contacts, get more people, complying if they haven't yet already filed, work with new people. Meanwhile, we'll also be having info sessions with our point of contacts to explain not only the filing disclosure process, but also the mandatory training law, because it's kind of two work hand in hand. So hopefully we'll get huge turnout and compliance numbers by the time we roll around to December.
Hello, Robert. This is Commissioner McCarthy joining the meeting.
Thank you. Welcome, Commissioner McCarthy.
And thank you, Benita, for the quick summary. Again, I do want to compliment the staff. Everybody's been doing a lot of work trying to make sure we get all the filings in and fielding all the questions that people inevitably have and how to process their filings. Shifting gears for a second, I'm going to give a bit of an update of the trip to Moldova. The final request is just a general inclination of whether or not we'd be interested in entering into a cooperative relationship with Moldova's National Integrity Authority. And I'll sort of summarize, what that is. If there's an interest in doing it, we can actually work and try to draft a document and have that for your consideration at the next meeting.
Why don't we do that? First of all, could you tell us why you were there?
Sure.
So I know of all places, and then the second thing is, maybe what is it that you think that would benefit us in having a relationship with Moldova? And then you can maybe submit some information to us individually. We can discuss that at our next meeting, but go ahead.
Sure. So I had the opportunity to attend as a part of a U.S. State Department American Council Professional Fellowship. They offer these professional fellowships for what they call democracies at risk, or sort of young fledgling democracies. And so it was a reciprocal fellowship. As you recall, we did have an amazing fellow, Christina Varanu, who came and actually stayed with us for 1 month. And so she helped host and has set up a number of the meetings for when I attended. So the focus was again on ethics. I had the opportunity to meet with a number of stakeholders, including NGOs, media, and the National Integrity Authority, and several of their inspectors to sort of understand what's going on and what they saw as their key issues. I did do a presentation, in association with the U.S. Embassy on what are the foundational pillars to creating an ethical government. And then we had this very robust discussion that, went on. I think we'd scheduled 2 hours in the whole thing. And I think in total went for 3.5 hours to show there's a lot of interest and discussion on it. The National Integrity Authority, and I'm happy to talk a little bit about Moldova itself. I mean, just briefly, it's a very young democracy. I had an opportunity to see a statue of a man and a woman, sort of center. And I asked what the history of it was. And apparently they were musicians that were one of the first to start basically talking about the importance of Moldovan culture, their language, and sort of returning to it and breaking away from Russia. And they had been murdered in 1993. And I guess everyone suspects Russia did it. But essentially these were their revolutionary heroes that sort of helped ignite, became martyrs for their eventual revolution and creation of a new country. And essentially they all knew the music, the mom had actually knew them, it's almost like us being in, a part of history where people still knew George Washington, John Adams, and it's just that freshness or that youthfulness of their democracy. As the U.S. Embassy or the ambassador stated, is, essentially after they did become a democracy for a number of years, they had very corrupt leaders, outright influenced by Russian oligarchs. It's only been the past 4 or 5 years that they've had a democracy. It really is truly living up to its name. As one example, I did meet with one of the parliamentarians, and essentially she stated that they were paid so poorly historically, all government officials, but nobody complained because you received so much in bribes that essentially was your mechanism for survival. Shifting gears just briefly to National Integrity Authority, their focus is principally on trying to capture bribes, right? I mean, they're at a much different stage, perhaps, of governmental service. And so they require all employees to submit full financial disclosures of themselves and their spouses and household members. And they have the ability to look at all tax returns, all goods and services coming into the country. And essentially they're doing a complete forensic audit of each financial disclosure statements as a means to see, is there money in the bank account that shouldn't have been there, inappropriately placed. They have 29 inspectors dedicated to this, and I think they have up to 40 positions. And so, it is maybe a sign of a former totalitarian authority or government that people are sort of okay with that level of scrutiny. But it also shows me they're really dealing with a, sort of level of criminal corruption in a way that we haven't. And again, they're very sole focused on that. I mean, those are really what they focus on. And certain other areas that I think are of interest to us are things maybe they just haven't had to wrestle with as much yet. They were very interested in forming a relationship. They've noted they get a lot of people coming to talk to them, but they don't really create the cooperative relationships. And things that they're interested in, for example, is help in searching for assets that may have been moved into Hawaii or the United States. And I kind of jokingly said, well, I don't really imagine you get a lot. And they actually said, well, we have a lot of Russian oligarchs who have money everywhere. And so we're always looking for help and trying to figure out where that went. I made the comment, we don't necessarily have the same authority to look into government records the way they do. But I think even our ability to provide assistance in looking at public records, I think they would appreciate it. I think the things that we potentially can benefit from is, again, they are doing a much deeper dive of looking at assets and audits in ways that we don't do. I think that is useful inherently for ourselves. I should also state the U.S. Embassy was very, very appreciative of the trip there. very complimentary, and said this is really foundational for their survival as a country. And it's also one of the key metrics that the EU has set for them to become a member of the EU is essentially they have to address corruption. And so any support we can provide to them is critical to their future as a country. Just a couple of final notes. I mean, it was amazing how often I'd say like, boy, this is really similar to Hawaii. I mean, it's odd to say that because I mean, they're a landlocked, predominantly agricultural, very poor, very rural country. And yet a lot of the customs and traditions, and you know, maybe they are somewhat universal, but again, really the distinction, you know, every single time they met with somebody, they try to feed you and basically said, if you don't walk away feeling, you know, like you're about to burst, they failed as a host. Extremely friendly, just very gregarious, very open, and just really energetic. And there's kind of an enthusiasm about the direction of their country that, you know, is refreshing to see. And, you know, it was kind of a fun spark. They weren't jaded and cynical quite yet. So.
Was Moldova the one that kicked out their dictator, so to speak, with a mass uprising in the town square?
Yes, and they've actually had a couple of revolutions. For example, their Declaration of Independence was destroyed at one point. Again, they still have a very large Russian-speaking and Russian sympathetic population. In fact, they said the U.S. Embassy was saying 5 years ago, the 3 TV stations that broadcast in there were only playing essentially media from Moscow. And when Ukraine was invaded, that's the only thing they heard essentially was, you know, the Russian point of view. And so their politics really are geopolitical, sort of a portion that's pro-Russian, a portion that's pro-EU, and that's really what dominates them. But just from the youthful perspective, when the Declaration of Independence was destroyed, they could actually go back and all the original signers were still alive and got them to re-sign it essentially. Just
Let me do this. I'm sure we have a lot of questions, and I don't know if we can really decide whether or not we want a formal or informal relationship with Moldova. Unless any objections, my recommendation is, let's ask Robert any questions we may have. I have a couple. And then maybe we do a position paper as to the benefits if we, you know, do have a relationship, and what kind of relationship, and would it cost us anything? Diplomatically and financially. My first 2 questions really are, and I'll open it up. What's our relationship with the United States with Moldova? And what kind of issues would be similar that we have, that Moldova has, that would benefit them by having a relationship with us?
sure. So the U.S. State Department, again, I, you know, obviously they can speak for themselves, but from my characterization, I don't think it is one of their primary focuses in Europe now, in part because it's so close to Ukraine and so close to the war zone effort. And I think they see the key, if Ukraine's ever going to be rebuilt, it's probably going to be rebuilt through the corridor that's Moldova. So I think they have strong interest in supporting democracy, trying to make sure it's stable and it's going to last over time. So again, the U.S. Embassy was very supportive. And so when we talked about potentially trying to form a relationship, they were willing to be supportive and, you know, helping with translation, helping and trying to do a ceremony potentially to recognize
Does the United States have a formal relationship with Moldova?
I can't characterize what the official, but you know, they have an embassy there. Biden visited there when he was vice president and actually had the president go meet him when he was there visiting Ukraine about 8 months ago. I think there's a fair amount of interest in supporting the current democratic government.
How about financially, Rob? Is there any like grant that the State Department can give us to do the work that they would like us to do?
I don't know if there would be or not. I think the American Council has been doing these fellowships and reciprocal, and they may still have that kind of opportunity. I don't anticipate if we're to form a relationship, there could be a lot of cost. I think the reality is it may not be much more than just a ceremonial relationship. There may be inquiries or questions, but again, I don't anticipate a lot more than that. If there's a point where potentially we want to try to, you know, host one of their employees here or vice versa, then there may be cost. I suspect that's something the American Council might be willing to support.
I'm just thinking as a former legislator that they would say, why are we all the way in Moldova? I mean, the State Department likes to put us in the danger zone. We had people from Burma not too long ago. And then the country fell apart after they left here. And I'm worried that what's going to happen here is why them? Why not, Burma or Bangladesh, some places closer to us? And if there is a support from the State Department or the organization that you described, then it kind of softens the blow because these are things that they would be responsible for. What we're giving them is expertise, not anything that is going to cost the state money. Any comment on that, Ron?
I agreed. I don't anticipate any direct cost outside of time, right, involved in the effort and, responding to any inquiries. And time is a cost. I do recognize fully. But my thought is this is probably going to be more ceremonial than much else than that. If there is expenses, again, I think as the embassy characterized it, Moldova has probably not gotten this much US attention or support ever in its history. I do suspect there would be, to the extent that they can, they have the same contracting and grant, structures that, most governmental agencies have, they would provide that support.
Yes.
What is their election process? And I say that in regards to, yes, this particular government is really enthusiastic and wants to come aboard and wants to be a democracy. But then the other thought I had is if they have an election process that is not favorable, say, like ours, and every 4 years we elect somebody, and then they come along and say, oh, we don't want that. What would be our position in that electoral process? I'm not saying that we should be part of their election process, but how would that affect a meeting with them?
They have elections very similar to ours, and it is possible at some point in the future that they start becoming more pro-Russian. However, I think the expectation is, particularly because of the Ukraine war, that the general tide or the general population's movement is more pro-EU, and they've applied to be part of the EU. And as part of one of the conditions, they have to address corruption. So I think the expectation is that it wouldn't go that way. Could never say never, but I think foreseeably they're generally moving more in a Western democratic fashion. I think again, we get the opportunity to help define what the relationship is. And so I think we can define it as a shared interest in addressing corruption and providing support, in form of advice, support, in relationships going forward. And so, at some point, they're no longer interested in addressing corruption. I don't think we necessarily have to continue to have a relationship with them.
Let me ask the other commissioners, Commissioner Hong, Commissioner McCarthy, and any of the staff, do you have any questions of Robert? Again, my bottom line is, how will it benefit Hawaii and our commission? I mean, we open the door regardless of a relationship. What is there to prevent another country saying, hey, we want a relationship with Hawaii? Hawaii is paradise. Everybody wants to come to Hawaii. And I'm even a little more pragmatic. Commissioner Hall, Commissioner McCarthy, any questions?
I have no specific questions.
I have a couple.
Sure.
This is Commissioner McCarthy. I think the concept of spreading ethics in government anywhere in the world is always a great thing to defeat corruption and defeat unethical conduct in government. But it strikes me as being a little bit odd that a country like Moldova will be doing this with a state in the United States, not only a state, but a small subdivision of that state, that is Hawaii, on the ethics issue. You would think that this would be something that would be State Department to State Department to try to put this together for the country, if that's what they want to do. I just thought it was kind of interesting. It's interesting that you went there, Robert, and learned all these things. But I wonder whether it's something that we, as the Commission of State Commission on Ethics in Hawaii, can really be in a position to do anything with respect to Moldova.
Sure. So I mean, I think part of the way State Department portrayed it is Moldova is a relatively small country. It has, I think, 4.1 million people. It has one large city, Chisinau, much like Hawaii has Honolulu. So I think there are some similarities in, relative size, relatively small populations. And so the things that we have to offer are, relatively small populations supporting a government and sort of being strained by what those capacities are, by comparison to the federal government being a, much different kind of entity. So I think
Do you think, I mean, do you think it'd be a good fit? The Hawaii State Ethics Commission working on ethical issues or providing ethical assistance to Moldova.
It's plainly a policy call by you guys. So I just want to be clear, obviously respect either way.
Yeah.
I think it is, again, going to be largely ceremonial in that I think it's going to be something they're going to hang on the wall and something we're going to hang on the wall. And I kind of don't really expect a ton of obligations.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not terribly concerned about, what we have to do thereafter. And I do see from us an opportunity. I don't think the Ethics Commission's ever really been engaged on the international stage. And so I think it is kind of a opportunity for us to show leadership, not just in the state basis, but, on a national and international basis. So, I don't see a ton of downside. And I think it's an opportunity for us to say, hey, we were the first state to create in our Constitution, an Ethics Commission. And we are clearly, I think, in the United States, one of the leading states in implementing and developing policy.
I get it. I think I'd have to think about it a bit more.
Yeah. How about the staff? Any questions from the staff?
And not so much a question, but a more of a comment for historical framing of the issue. At least in the recent decade, we've had exchanges with other countries. So Ukraine, as part of I believe the same program, previous administrations have participated in a similar role where we've hosted interns in our office. And I think we've had a visit from Myanmar prior to all the geopolitical upheaval. But those were kind of exchanges where visitors would come to our office and we would exchange ideas, right? And tools that we do our work and what they can take away from. And I think those types of gatherings were really helpful. And I think it just kind of like to share what our experiences are, how we approach our work, even, sharing information about our e-filing system and public data for greater transparency. Those are things that they were really like keyed in on and interested in how could they take it back and, looking at avenues that they can implement in their countries to help shore up democratic institutions. So
Bonita, did we ever have any ceremonial relationship with those countries?
I don't think it's really anything formal. It's more like visits, right? Through people who work with us and say, hey, would you be willing to host? We would like to bring visitors to meet with you. And so I think Robert has had meetings with Guam ethics director, right? So building these kind of connections is on a little bit more international level, but it's kind of like akin to our role with working with other states in COGO, right? In terms of exchanging knowledge and working with them to get ideas from there how they address issues that we can then improve our work as well. So I think it goes two ways.
Okay, well, let's do this. Anything else from any of the commissioners? Any questions or comments? What is their pleasure for the commission? What would you like us to do in regards to this issue? Anybody?
I would like to see that we just explore it and find out what the actual connection would be. And if it's just a matter of exchanging information and then making sure that we address like the State Department and the different folks that are involved at the federal level, instead of just saying we Hawaii are going to go forward with this, making sure that we have that dialogue and that they're okay with our action.
Any comments from the other commissioners in regards to Commissioner Tobias's suggestion, actually recommendation? Mr. Chairman, yes.
I think what Rob said earlier cannot be understated. which is that Hawaii was the first state in the nation to have a comprehensive ethics code. We celebrated our 50th anniversary in 2018. And I think that cannot be understated. It's in our constitution. Nobody else has done that. So when it comes to ethics, Hawaii leads the way. Ethics in government, Hawaii leads the way.
Yeah.
It's understandable that they would call upon us to lead in this area. And I think we should take up the mantle and imua. As long as it doesn't cost us anything, it's fine. If it's ceremonial, dinners, lunches, that's fine. But anything beyond that, we'll need some support. But I think we should be happy to do it.
Okay, Commissioner Hong, any?
I would agree with Commissioner Tobias. I would hope that we get some additional information. But again, with Commissioner Gralty, I think that it's reasonable to pursue this if there are no significant financial or political costs.
Okay. Commissioner McCarthy?
I would concur with Commissioner Hong on that, and the other voices spoke, Commissioner Tobias. I think there's really, it's a nice thing to do with our reputation, I think, in the world of ethics in states to reach out to a kind of a fledgling country to share ethics information with them and they with us.
Well, definitely put us on the international stage.
I think so.
Yes. What I'm gonna do is ask for a motion pursuant to the comments that were made by Commissioner Tobias and Commissioner Gralty, that we pursue a relationship, whatever that may be, with Moldova, and Robert comes up with a position statement that we can digest so that we can understand what that relationship may be. That's a long motion, but anyway.
Well, so moved.
Move, but thank you. Whatever I said, I hope you got done.
I'll second it.
Moved by Commissioner Hong. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Commissioner Tobias. Discussion?
I can just briefly add, if we are going to reach out to the US Embassy and get their input and or to the National Integrity Authority to sort of make sure they understand what we are going to agree to or not agree to. I just flag it may be embarrassing to then decide not to do it. So if we're going to go down that path, you know, we can obviously shift and change for what it says, but it's also maybe a little bit of a
I'm gonna
commitment.
put you on the spot. Can you repeat the motion as best as you remember?
Yeah, so motion to pursue a relationship with Moldova with the executive director preparing a position statement on what that would look like.
Give everybody. All right. Any more discussion? All in favor? Roll call.
Starting with Vice Chair Gralty,
I
Chair Hong,
Aye.
Commissioner Tobias,
Aye.
Chair Hong. Oh, sorry, apologies, Commissioner McCarthy.
Aye.
Aye. No objections, motion is carried. Thank you very much. Good job. All right, moving right along, legislative session. Go ahead.
So just briefly, there is a summary of bills signed into law under subsection I on the meeting agenda. Bills pending before the governor include a revision of our enforcement of financial disclosure statement filings, legislator disclosures, requirement that lobbyists are not allowed to make political donations during campaign during the legislative session, and our nepotism bill. My understanding is some of these bills will be signed on Friday. Chair Fong and myself have been invited to a signing event, and you know, we'll see which of these shake out.
Any questions? I have one. Nepotism, Hawaiʻi bill, also 717, it says prohibits under certain state employees. Is that a typo?
I believe so. I think it's supposed to be prohibits certain state employees.
Oh, okay. That's wondering. I may be a little remiss, but in regards to the topic of Moldova, I wondered if any of our public or who are on on our screen here have any comments in regards to what we just passed? None? Okay, we'll continue on then. Item number 4, consideration draft legislation, increasing commissioners' administrative fine authority. Robert?
So as you may recall, the commission previously asked the staff to take a look at our administrative fine authority, and we took a attempt to sort of do a snapshot review of looking at what other states have in terms of fine authority. And so you have attached a quick snapshot of different states. It's not all inclusive, but I think it's a pretty good representation of different states, ranging, approximately $1,000, similar to us, all the way up to like Chicago has a $20,000 max fine. On average, just again, ballparking it, $5,000 seems to be about the standard range. One note of caution I should add is it's not, I did not try to compare. We have a fine per violation. It's possible some of these states or counties will limit it to per event and not per violation. So made the recommendation to, and it's attachment 3, proposed legislation to increase the maximum fine up to $5,000 per violation as a, sort of trying to be in the middle or average of what the different states and counties have done.
What does it mean by per violation? Like, you've taken 20 bribes, that's 5,000 per, okay,
Correct.
per violation. All
Per
right.
violation. So, examples might include somebody who's failed to disclose something on their financial disclosure statements. They've done it 3 years in a row. That'd be 3 violations. You're right. If someone's taken money inappropriately multiple times, that's per violation. So it can be, a relatively large amount of money total.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the staff for researching this. It was my recommendation that we increase our fine from 1,000, which was like a slap on the hand, to something a little more palatable. So comments from close the door. Comments? Oops. Comments from our commissioners? Any comments? Questions? Oh, wait a minute, let's wait until Robert comes back.
Just briefly, there is construction going on. We just called, we're calling to ask them to quiet it down to not do it. They're not supposed to be making noise right now.
Anyway, questions from commissioners?
I appreciate the efforts that were done, and I think that, this was a lot of work, and I would recommend approval.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I'm gonna assume that's a motion that you're gonna make, Commissioner Hong, to approve.
So move.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Growlty. Discussion? If not, roll call.
Starting with Vice Chair Walty, Commissioner Hong,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy,
Hi.
Commissioner Tobias,
Aye.
Chair.
Aye. See no objections, motion's carried. Thank you again, and thank you, staff, for doing the research. I'd go for 100,000, that's okay. All right, next is item number 5, consideration of draft ethics commission guidance on social media use. Who's is that yours or
I'll take that. Yeah.
who's? Oh, Nancy,
That's-
go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. So what's been going on is that we've been starting to get a bunch of questions regarding the use of the social media accounts. These are official state accounts, and the questions are largely surrounding legislators' use of the accounts. So in response to that, we've drafted this sort of quick guide that we hope that is readable, that they will actually read, to offer some guidance on this. In the meantime, we will probably be putting together some proposed rules to address social media. It's kind of a new area for all ethics commissions. So we're researching that right now, but this guidance is proposed to give them some measure of assistance in the meantime. So we would want the commission's blessing for approving this and adopting this that we can distribute and post.
Okay, any questions from the commissioners? Then if any questions from the public? Also, if the public has any, I'm sorry, and I apologize for any comments or questions in regards to the last action we took to increase the $5,000, to increase the fine to $5,000. First of all, the commissioners, any questions on regards to item number 4, the guidance on social media use? How about from the public? Also, public, any comments or questions in regards to the last action we took? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the guidance on social media use prepared by the commission.
I'll move.
Moved by Commissioner Gralti,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Tobias. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Vice Chair Gralti,
Aye.
Commissioner Hong,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Tobias,
Aye.
Chair.
I vote aye, no objections, motion is carried. Again, thank you very much, staff.
Thank
Item
you.
numbers, yes. Let me say something.
That was a thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Nancy. Item number 6, consideration of draft ethics guidance on nepotism law. I like this one.
So on this one, the commission had approved the substance of a quick guide on the nepotism law at the last meeting with the anticipation that staff was going to revise it. We have since revised it to make it a little bit more readable, different text boxes. So we're just asking that the commission approve the revised guide to the nepotism law.
Any questions, first of all, by the commissioners and of the public? Or any comments? Commissioners? How about the public? I have a question. What is there to prevent me from asking Representative Gralti to go hire my wife?
Well, because we're a legislative agency, I don't think that that would apply to you because you would be considered a legislative employee. Conflicts of interest law, potentially if you're doing it in your official capacity because it's a spouse, but maybe not, it would depend. Yeah.
So that's pretty covered. So my wife has to get another job. Okay. Very good. Okay, any other questions, comments? Not, entertain a motion to approve.
Move approval.
Moved by Commissioner Hong. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
it.
Seconded by Commissioner McCarthy. Discussion? Roll call?
Starting with Vice Chair Gralti,
Aye.
Commissioner Hong,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Tobias,
Aye.
Chair.
Aye, seeing no objections, motion's carried again. Thank you, staff. Good job. Hopefully it works.
Just, I do want to especially recognize Key for helping and Caroline for helping prepare that. We were concerned if the bill were to go into effect right away, were to be signed and went into effect. If we didn't have this guidance ready to go, it could be problematic because there may be a number of employees that are in a sort of nepotism type situation, and being able to have quick answers for them is important. So this is really trying to be ahead of the game. And again, appreciate the staff's effort on that.
That's a good point. I forgot to ask. Is it retroactive?
It is not retroactive per se. However, it would mean that somebody who is supervising a household member or relative could no longer do so without either applying for a good cause exception with us, which, obviously we'd have our standards for approving or disapproving that. Or, what we'd encourage them to do is to try to move out of the supervising relationship.
Can we get this guidance or directive out to all those who are affected so they can, use the word, police themselves?
We have to wait till the law being passed.
Oh, yeah, of
obviously,
course,
right?
yeah.
And then, I think that because we try to distribute it as
Yeah.
much as we can.
Because a lot of people probably don't know. We have a case that he hired all of his relatives. I won't mention the name. Okay, let's see, Akana. First of all, may I say that I am very saddened by the fact that Commissioner Gralty will not be present during the demise of this case, because when I got on board, oh God, it was 2008, I think.
4 years.
That was the first case that this commission has had out of 3 cases, and that was the first one that I attended when I started on this commission, and Commissioner Gralty did a fabulous job as the judge. Well, quote unquote, the chair.
Yeah, I'll say this, if they should come up with the decision, whether they uphold us or they reverse us, I would like to be informed so that I can come here and personally pick up my copy of their decision. Because it's a long time coming, 4 years is a long time, even for ICA cases, but there must be something in there that's causing them to think twice, slow down. I hope we're not
Ray,
going to be.
Ray, this
reversed.
is Harry. Suppose the Court of Appeals remands it for further proceedings at our level. Will you come back to do the remand proceedings if they have the?
I will stand behind Wes Long, our chairman, whispering his ear that it will be his duty.
Yes, we can have hearings officers.
Special hearings officer.
Well, and I don't, Ray, Commissioner McCarthy, I won't put Ray on the spot, but we do have another retired judge
Who can take over, yeah.
who can take over.
That's right.
Okay, that was a yes.
That's right. Maybe I should not have spoke up so soon. Huh?
Just call me and I'll come personally to see the copy of the decision.
Yeah,
You can,
Akana, anything?
No updates and Vice Chair Gralty, I'll commit to making sure we notify you when we hear about it.
I don't know that you're leaving with a legacy there or.
I don't understand it.
I don't
You
understand.
can't tell them what to do.
Oh, man, I mean, this case, it's amazing, but anyway, I hope it's resolved
Yes.
one way or another. Let's see, I think the last thing is the recognition, is that right?
That's what it says.
Well, this is the last meeting for Commissioner Gralty. He's served with distinction for the last 8 years on the State Ethics Commission. Not only as a commissioner, but as a chair. As a matter of fact, I should thank him. I don't know if you should thank him. He was the one that encouraged me to apply for the commission, and it's been very rewarding, so I thank him. I've known Commissioner Gralty as a fellow Army officer, as a fellow JC, as a fellow lawyer, and I want to thank him for his service to our country, to our state, and more so to our State Ethics Commission. And also thank him as a good friend. And with that, I'm sure you have a lot of these, so I want you to stand up. I'm gonna read it for you.
Let's get formal.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna read the citation to this actually proclamation. I'm sorry, resolution, Hawaii State Ethics Commission. I won't ask you to raise your right hand. You already did that when you became a second lieutenant.
Can I take a look at it?
Sure.
Make sure you got the right name.
Yeah. Let me read all the
Whereas.
nice words for Ray. Whereas the Hawaii State Ethics Commission recognizes individuals who make significant contributions to promote ethics in government. And the Hawaii State Ethics Commission recognizes individuals who make significant contributions to advance ethics in government. Whereas Reynard,
It's correct. Reynard.
Ray D. Gralty has demonstrated his personal commitment to public service and has made significant contributions to promote the highest ethical standards in government. And whereas Hawaii State Ethics Commission proudly recognizes Ray Gralty for his dedicated public service to the state of Hawaii and for his contributions to ethics while serving as a member of the Hawaii State Ethics Commission from July 1st, 2015.
I was a young man then.
Yeah, to June 30th, 2023, having served as chair from February 2017 to June 2020, and vice chair from July 22 to June 2023. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Hawaii State Ethics Commission hereby commends Ray Gralty for his outstanding general commitment and contributions to the state of Hawaii and to the ethics in government. And be it further resolved that the Hawaii State Ethics Commission hereby extends to Ray Gralty its warmest aloha, appreciation, and best wishes dated June 21st, 2023, signed by all of the commissioners.
Fantastic.
How about a big round of applause for Mr. Gralty?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You have the floor.
Well, I can say that it's been an exciting 8 years. And my long service, my long term in public service. This was icing on the cake. And there are many people to thank. I'd first like to thank the governor who appointed me not once but twice. The chief justice on the council for recommending me not once but twice. I'd like to thank the executive directors that I've worked with. We've had some outstanding individuals, Dan Clark and Rob Harris. But most of all, I'd like to thank the staff because they are the ones who bring life or put life behind the ethics code. And I'm very proud of the fact that I was chair of the Ethics Commission when we celebrated our 50th anniversary in 2018. We invited the Dalai Lama, as you know, but he couldn't make it. He had other duties. But it's been a magnificent 8 years, and I'm grateful to all of you for all of the support you've given me and the commission. And I leave with much aloha for all of you, and much thanks for all the work that you do and continue to do on a daily basis. And Wes asked me, what are you going to do next? Well, I told him that we'd be doing Meals on Wheels, but I'm only a phone call on the side away. And if you need me for anything at all, please feel free to call. So with that, I say thank you very much as I ride off into the sunset with much aloha and appreciation.
All right.
Right.
Any comments from any of the commissioners? First of all,
I have one. This is Commissioner McCarthy.
yes.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Ray, for the invaluable assistance you provided me. I think other commissioners, by virtue of the experience that you've had on the commission for so long, including being chair. I think coming into the commission, it was a new endeavor for me, and I know other new commissioners. And hearing you discuss cases and your experience was invaluable. I just want to thank you for all that. I wish I was there to shake your hand, and I've got an open invitation to you and your wife to come to Kauai and visit whenever you can.
We'll take you to Merriman's.
Thank you. Any other commissioner, any comments or?
This Rob, I appreciate, Ray's contribution. And in part, that's why I'm calling in, even though I'm very remote.
Thank you.
I would just like to thank you for your wisdom and for your humor, because a lot of times when you say things in different capacities, your humor comes out, even though we're doing serious stuff here, I feel, and I thank you for that.
I can only be that way with friends, and I was always with friends, and I thank you for that.
I've already thanked Ray and all that he's done for, again, the country, our state, and for the Ethics Commission, and as a good friend. I wish him the best. Anything from the staff that you want to say in public? None? Okay, I'm assuming they're all saying thank you very much, Ray.
I'll say
Thank
this to
you.
the staff,
Just
there
mahalo.
never was a dull moment. Never a dull moment, right, Key? Never a dull moment. And I thank you
Thank
for
you,
that.
Chair.
All right,
Thank you, Judge. I wish I was there in person.
all right.
Yeah,
No worries.
me too.
Okay, with that, unless there's anything else, oh, any of the public like to say something? None? All right.
Thank goodness.
I believe that's all the business we have. I will entertain a motion to adjourn and, you want to stick around?
We should have recess.
Move, moved by Commissioner Tobias. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Gralty. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment? We need to roll call again?
Absolutely.
Vice Chair Gralty,
Aye.
Commissioner Hong,
Aye.
Commissioner McCarthy,
Aye.
Commissioner Tobias,
Aye.
Chair.
Aye, and we'll take a 10-minute break. Now it's about 10 o'clock. We'll come back at 10:10. Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much.